Hello guys, thank you so much for coming back to watch another video on my channel. Now if you have been playing survival horror games, more specifically Resident Evil titles from 1 all the way to now. Now what makes a very good Resident Evil title is a key element of having a very good immersion, the atmosphere and the location of the game. So Resident Evil 9 is going to follow the same theme and the same structure of the previous Resident Evil titles by having location as a key element of the game. However, which location they're going to use for the upcoming Resident Evil 9, let's find out together in this video. Now if you're brand new to my channel and you end up liking this video, do give me a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel because it would allow me to make more of these videos for you guys. As I mentioned earlier in the video, that location plays an important role for a good Resident Evil title by providing the immersion to the player and how they felt engaged into the atmosphere created into that location of that game. So that's why Capcom understands the importance of having the right location for the upcoming Resident Evil 9 title. So I'm going to talk about all of those potential locations we can expect for the upcoming Resident Evil 9. A mansion plays an iconic feature and role in Resident Evil franchise. Look at Resident Evil 1, the Spencer Mansion felt like a character in itself in the game. The best part of the whole game was actually the Spencer Mansion. It featured the uncertainty and the atmosphere provided in the game that the player doesn't know what's going on. This mansion plays as a house of horror with all the mysteries and all the clues you can find in the game, with all the monstrosities, and if you delve deeper you can unveil the more mystery behind what actually is going on in the game. I remember playing Resident Evil 1 Remake and how much I was immersed in that game due to the atmosphere itself created within that mansion. Even you going through that hallway scene, the sound coming from that clock on the background can actually give you anxiety while you play in the game. The same thing they did with Resident Evil 7, that you had this main house in Dulvey which is full of secrets. You have to find all these puzzles, all these keys to unlock these doors and find out and read the documents while you're running away from Jack Baker, who's constantly chasing you and taunting you on the background. And that's where Resident Evil shines the most, by featuring these locations as mansion, which becomes now a footprint of a good Resident Evil game. And that's what Capcom needs to do with Resident Evil 9 by featuring a brand new mansion with all the puzzles and all the mysteries you can solve, where you can spend hours and hours while you have to survive the survival elements and the survival horrors of a Resident Evil game. Raccoon City, just like Mansion, becomes an iconic feature of a good Resident Evil title. Whether you've played the original trilogy of the Resident Evil games or the more recent ones, you would agree on one part that Raccoon City is the most iconic location and the most iconic urban city of a Resident Evil franchise. Now you get to explore this city in the most recent remakes. In Resident Evil 2 Remake, you get to spend more of your time in RPD Station, which is also one of the most iconic locations in the Resident Evil franchise. And the same thing can be said about Resident Evil 3 Remake. However, it was very short-lived and I would have preferred more and freedom and more exploration in the Raccoon City streets, but we couldn't get the chance to do that. In the more recent Resident Evil titles, Capcom is now stepping away from the urban city environment and they're going more into the isolated locations, which I'm fine with, but I think it's about time for Resident Evil main title to go back to the urban city, just like Raccoon City, or let's say Raccoon City 2.0, where you get to spend more of your time exploring the city and to find out how Umbrella has not just affected one Raccoon City, but there's all these towns, all these cities which has been infected by Umbrella, where you can have brand new viruses and you get to explore more, and they can also become, and those cities can also become the iconic locations, just like Raccoon City is for Resident Evil games. Who doesn't love castles? Castles also become iconic features and iconic locations for players to get immersed in, and how beautiful these been crafted due to the new RE engine they introduced in Resident Evil 7. And the same thing can be said about Resident Evil 8 Village, where you get to explore this Castle Dimitrescu, where you get to explore and find out what's going on, where Lady Dimitrescu can chase you. And I think it was also one of the most highlighted features of Resident Evil 8 Village. These old school castles always give you that sort of creepy vibe to it, where it looks beautiful and grander in the scale. However, there's always this undertone, there's always this mystery behind that, how much cruel experiments being done by the people who used to reside in these castles. And that's what I always love, and I think Resident Evil has been capturing that and nailing that sort of vibe with these castles they've introduced in the more recent Resident Evil titles. So they could do exactly the same with Resident Evil 9 by featuring a brand new castle where they can show the latest technology with their Rex engine on their brand new hardwares, that how beautiful these castles can look, but at the same time you keep the same creepy element, the undertone of the mystery and the experiments and the dungeon areas, and you can continue with that. And I think this would make Resident Evil 9 as one of the successful Resident Evil games. Labs and hospitals always give me that sort of creepy vibe, that there's always these experiments conducted by these doctors or these professionals on the background, which has created these humans into these monstrosities. And I think they can do that with Resident Evil 9 by showing us that how these experiments has been conducted by the doctors and the surgeons, which has led to this outbreak of this brand new zombie apocalypse we're going to be able to see. So I think hospitals and locations are iconic features. And look at Resident Evil 2 Remake. You had this Nest lab, which was at the underground at Raccoon City, which you found out later on in the game, and I personally really enjoyed that area to explore. They also introduced us to the brand new plant-based enemy, which you don't find it early on in the game because it was due to the experiment which has been conducted in those labs. They also tried to do that with Resident Evil 3 Remake, but I personally didn't enjoy it. It was more like a copy and paste. The same thing they all did with the Resident Evil 4, where you find this lab area where you have these regenerators, and I personally also found that area quite creepy for me. And I think you can do all of these experiments, have a short section where you can have this lab and introduce us to a more creepy hybrid sort of enemy type, which has only been created due to the experiments being conducted in those labs. Forest or rural area. I think this is one area where Resident Evil franchise hasn't tapped into it. They use all of their locations like great mansions we've seen, castles, but this is something we have not seen, which gives you the freedom to take Resident Evil 9 into the brand new area. They try to do that with Resident Evil 8 Village, where you get to explore village area, and I think based on the previous Resident Evil 9 leaks, they confirmed that we might be able to see all of these Wendigo type of creatures, and we might be able to explore in this forest area. And I think it will give them more of a freedom with the brand new engine, that you can have, let's say, a semi-open world Resident Evil title around the forest area where there's nothing you can do, and you can have few dotted locations throughout the forest area where you get to explore, which exactly in the same way where you did with the village, but have a more creepy atmosphere, and you don't know what's around the corner, where you can fight or flight in that situation. And I think Forest would allow Capcom to use all of these mythical creatures in the form of zombies, which you can introduce us with a brand new virus or brand new parasite. And I think there's always this creepy element that you don't know what's hiding in the forest area, and I think when you do that with Resident Evil 9, it would perfectly nail the atmosphere which we need from a good Resident Evil title. So what do you guys think? Which location Capcom needs to use for the upcoming Resident Evil 9 title? Please do let me know in the comment section down below in this video. So that's it for the video, guys. I'll catch you again with another video on my channel. Until then, look after yourself. Have a good one.